So, Liam, as I was saying, many people have gone down the shops, won't be surprised to hear these figures. But, I mean, the problem is that these are real staples again, where it's just shooting up and up and up.
We've highlighted for months on GBNews, Mark, haven't we, that inflation is higher than the headline numbers for poorer households, not least because poorer households spend disproportionately more of their income on fuel, food and other essentials that are more expensive than the basic rate of inflation. And, the Centre for Social Justice, this is a centre-right think tank that was set up by Ian Duncan-Smith. We often highlight their work. They've brought out a report very recently, and it's called Over the Odds. And I've got some statistics here to show you. Now, they polled 4,000 British adults, and their research showed that poorer households face what they call a poverty premium. They pay more for basic goods than the rest of us, and these higher charges cost vulnerable families around £500 a year, £500 they can ill afford. And the statistics show, moving on, that 33% of these more vulnerable households, they are on energy prepayment meters.
Right.
Now, again, we've discussed this, haven't we? And you pay a lot more per unit energy when you're on a prepayment meter. You often have to go around the shops to put money in your account, and you pay more even though you're a poorer family, you're not as creditworthy. That's why you're on the prepayment meter. And another statistic, over a fifth, Mark, 22% of our most vulnerable families, they can't afford household contents insurance, even though they tend to be in places where burglary is more prevalent. And finally, the CSJ say that 35% of these poor families, so that's over a third, use high-cost credit, payday and pawnbroking loans. So again, they pay more for their loans than you or I would, with respect. And then a fifth, 20%, they are digitally excluded. So it means they haven't got access to the internet in an easy way. They can't even shop around. We can often get bargains on the web, can't we? Because there's often more competition, and then they can't shop around for that either. So some valuable work there by the CSJ showing that not only is inflation higher for lower income families in general, food and fuel and so on, but accessing essential services like credit, like energy, is harder.
Yeah, and this time of year, of course, when they're trying to look at what to do for Christmas, it really is a desperate situation. However, is there a bit of light at the end of the tunnel? Hugh Pill, the chief economist of the Bank of England, has been talking, and he, like you, has indicated, well, look, inflation may start coming down. I mean, it's going to be painful because it's the recession that's squeezing the economy, but we may see that figure coming down into the spring and summer of next year. There's
a lot of this kind of what we call economic discourse going on in the background, and sometimes it bursts through into the mainstream news. Yesterday, in the House of Lords Select Committee, there was a gargantuan tussle, all very polite, between Andrew Bailey, the current governor of the Bank of England, and Mervyn King, who was the governor of the Bank of England some time ago, before Mark Carney. And they were talking about when inflation might come down and whether or not the Bank of England should have raised interest rates earlier. And I certainly think it should have done, as I've said on GB News many times. And as you say, Hugh Pill, who's the chief economist of the Bank of England, pretty much the number two, he gave a speech in London today, and he said high inflation will stay with us for some time, but by the middle of next year, so just over 6 months, he then thinks inflation will, quote, be falling rapidly.
Right.
So that is some light at the end of the tunnel. Inflation, of course, is the term we use to capture cost of living increases, and inflation, the headline inflation rate, is currently at a 41-year high.